My name is Julie LeBlanc. I'm the Senior Commercial Officer of the U.S. Commerce Department's Liaison Office to the African Development Bank. So what do? I help U.S. companies invest across the African continent through projects at the African Development Bank. So I cover the entire continent and I cover all of the sectors. Mostly we work with companies working in power and energy, agriculture, industrialization, infrastructure, and then across into the healthcare and education sectors as well. So, no, I'm not African by background. I grew up on the East Coast of the United States. I come from a French-Canadian background, and I've always was given the luxury and the privilege at a very young age to travel abroad and to spend a lot of time in French-speaking countries, which enabled me to develop my French-speaking skills. I ended up studying in Europe, in France, and my entire career so far has been on trade and investment and business, helping connect Francophone countries and the United States in terms of building commercial relationships and business relationships. The funny story is that when I studied abroad, when I was looking where to study abroad in university, I wanted to go to Madagascar because I wanted to come to Francophone Africa. My mother looked at a map and said it was too far and told me I couldn't go that far. So I ended up going to France, but always had the dream to come and live in Francophone Africa, and that opportunity presented itself 2 years ago when I applied for and got a job to work in Côte d'Ivoire, which is where I work right now, at the US Embassy and at the headquarters of the African Development Bank. So if I can reimagine Africa, I would reimagine the Africa that I would want would be an Africa that's more connected. My specific part in that is that I bring US companies and connect them with African companies or with projects across the continent in African countries. And it's really matching and finding where there are win-wins, where you have the best of what the United States company can bring and matching it with the best of what either an African company or country can offer. And specifically in this conference today, a theme that's come up several times has been that Africa is not fully connected or integrated. That goes from North Africa and Sub-Saharan, and a lot of times we split the continent. You have language and cultural divides, and then you just have infrastructure. We're not connected in terms of roads or even airplane connections. So for me, I think that if we can be more integrated, I think that the future will just be that much brighter. So my primary objective for the next 12 months is to better engage US companies and to bring a lot more investment to this continent. That's done in a lot of different ways. A big part of my job is to promote the opportunities that the African Development Bank offers as a gateway into this continent, as a way to invest in this continent. Also because I'm part of the US Embassy, we bring a lot of the rising stars of this continent to the United States or bring them into our networks. Again, it's all about building real relationships between the leaders on both sides of the Atlantic. So for me, it's building more of those relationships. It's getting out there. I actually came here to reopen our office, so I also have to build the client base and the network. But my goal is to just have that many more US companies engaged, specifically with the bank, but across the continent. So the number one thing that we need is people and companies. Everyone knows that the United States, in terms of investment on this continent, falls behind a lot of other countries. So we need more and more companies coming here. We need more and more people visiting. So for me, it's really the human capital, and it's getting companies to this continent. Because once they come here and they see the opportunities that are abound and they see the rising stars and the dynamic, you just have capitalism and entrepreneurship abound on this continent. And what I find a lot is when companies come to visit the African Development Bank headquarters, so in Côte d'Ivoire, they look around and they see maybe sometimes a country or a market that they didn't realize was going on and moving at this fast pace, and they want to be involved in that. So for me, it's really getting more people here, and then that's giving them exposure to what's actually going on, which is not always portrayed in the news. So my commitment's going to be on a professional and a personal level. Professionally, it's, as I said, to better engage and to really ramp up U.S. engagement across this continent. I think that the United States has a lot to offer, and I think that there's a lot here and a lot of opportunities that we would be lucky to take advantage of and to leverage. On a personal level, there's a nonprofit organization that's called City Year, which is basically, it's part of what is now called AmeriCorps. So it's young people volunteering a year of their life in the most disadvantaged neighborhoods of their cities. And this started in the United States actually by Harvard grads, and Nelson Mandela brought it to South Africa 10 years ago. I had the opportunity to visit them this week, and getting the message out that they're here, they're on the continent, and really connecting them with either leaders that are of this continent or leaders that are from the US, and just raising their profile. Their mission right now is youth unemployment and really building and cultivating leaders in South Africa to be the next generation of leaders, but also to be highly skilled employees that companies want. I think that's a really powerful mission, and as much as I can do for them, I would like to. I'm also an alumna, so as I said, it's personal to me, but I think it's an incredible success story on this continent. One of the things that I would love to get across, I'm a huge champion of Francophone Africa. I think that it's the Anglophone Africa, and obviously Africa is home to 7 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world. But a lot of times when we talk about Africa, it's North Africa, or it's Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya. And so the Anglophone markets have a lot of attention on them. And I think that I love West Africa and Francophone Africa. And I think that Francophone Africa has a tremendous amount to offer. And sometimes it's a little bit forgotten about. It's forgotten about by a lot of countries. And a lot of times that's blamed or explained by people don't have the language skills to come into these markets, to work in these markets, or to create the relationships. And it's absolutely not true. And I invite anyone to come to Francophone Africa. There is so much going on. There's so much in terms of entrepreneurs and products and exciting companies and buildings and architecture. There's just everything. It's extremely diverse, and it touches on all of the sectors of the economy, and there are so many shining stars, and I invite everyone to come. If they don't know anyone, come and contact me. But I really do think that, I really hope that in the next couple of years that some of the Francophone markets get the same type of acknowledgement and notice that the Anglophone markets have right now, and that we can also work together and have all the countries get the same recognition.